All right, the Stanley Cup final is set. The Oilers and Panthers are going to meet in Game 1 on Saturday for Edmonton. It's the first time in 18 years that they've had a chance at the Stanley Cup. The Panthers, they only had to wait one season. Joining us right now to discuss is John Viveros, host of Hot Take Hockey. So, John, Connor McDavid, let's start with that.
Bakari, yes. Connor McDavid's first Stanley Cup final, and there's just so many cool storylines here. I think with Connor McDavid, just the run that he's had, and I think this is a cool opportunity for him to really put his name in the record books. I mean, he's got 31 points in this playoff run, and the record for points in a single playoff run is Wayne Gretzky with the Oilers, 47. So is it possible that Connor McDavid could put 17 points on the board in a 7-game series? I mean, we'll see. But I do think that he showed last night in Game 6 against the Dallas Stars to mark the victory and get them to the Stanley Cup final with that all-time goal. So I think McDavid, he's really showing his confidence in this run and getting deeper. So you look at Connor McDavid, leading point getter. You look at Leon Draisaitl, his buddy, 10 goals on the board. Zach Hyman leading the league in the playoffs with 14 goals. So, I mean, Bakari, the Edmonton Oilers are a lot of fun right now, and if they can figure out their defense group, the goaltending, Stuart Skinner can play the way he did the last couple of games in that conference final. I mean, Canada could be excited to see that 31-year cup drought finally snapped.
Okay, so speaking of JV, look, the Oilers, they're advancing to the finals for the first time in 18 years, right? It's great to have a Canadian team in the final, but did you think that it would be this Canadian team? I mean, what, 18 years? That's the same age as you, right?
Not quite. But, yeah, 18 years for the Oilers last time, and they lost against the Carolina Hurricanes going back to 2006. And then you're talking about 31 years since a Canadian team won the Cup. So, all these storylines, Canada coming together, I think there's, some Canadian fans that are excited outside of Edmonton and then some that want their own team to break that drought. I do think that in terms of the Edmonton Oilers, I did have them being the favorite right at the start of the playoffs. So I did mark the Oilers as the Canadian team that I thought could do it, just based on the momentum. I mean, you go back all the way to the start of the regular season, they only had 2 wins in their first 12 games. But mid-season, they make a coaching change. They get more confidence in their goaltending. And then Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, the whole conversation throughout the whole season has been cup or bust. So going into the playoffs, I thought that their bracket was the easier side, beating the LA Kings, then beating the Vancouver Canucks, who hadn't had playoff experience recently, but then they take them to a Game 7. So that momentum even went further for the Oilers, winning an all-time Canadian matchup in the second round. And then you saw how dominant they were in some games against Dallas. So I am confident that Edmonton can do something great here. But, I mean, on the other side, Bakari, the Florida Panthers are a tough team. They were in the Stanley Cup final last year against Vegas, ironically the team that beat Edmonton as well. So both teams are, whether you want to call it a team of destiny or just team of redemption, Florida's right there with Edmonton in terms of trying to make their mark, because last year they got cut short by Vegas, and this year another Western Conference powerhouse, if you want to call it, in Edmonton. Florida really wants to show well. So I think it's going to be a real-time matchup between offensive powerhouses in McDavid, Draisaitl versus the defensive structure that head coach with Florida, Paul Maurice, has, and Alexander Barkov, who many would argue is the best defensive center in the league. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I hope this one goes to 7.
Okay, so JV betting on the Oilers. Look, the Oilers and Panthers, they met twice in the regular season, with the Panthers winning both of those games. Should we read into that?
I think regular season's different, but I mean, there is something to be said about, like I said, the matchup game for the Florida Panthers. I think when you look at both teams, you're probably putting more trust into Bobrovsky as the goalie for Florida, the defensive matchup for Florida, Gustav Forsling, Aaron Ekblad, guys that have been very reliable for Florida in the past, and more so Forsling in this playoff run. I think the depth for Florida is a lot better than Edmonton's. I think that's where they'll have to play that matchup game. Is you probably look at the Oilers in terms of their scoring. Like I said, Hyman's got 14 goals, Draisaitl's got 10, and McDavid's got 5. That's a lot of Edmonton's offense, where Florida's been very spread out across the board. You even go back to the 2014 NHL entry draft, Florida's got 3 of the top 4 guys, and all 4 guys in that top 4 are in that Cup final. And the first overall pick with Aaron Ekblad, and then Edmonton's Draisaitl, and then Bennett and Reinhart. So Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Florida's got so many weapons that Edmonton just doesn't have. So Bakari, to speak on the regular season victories, I mean, Florida's got a lot of depth. But one thing that will give an advantage to the Edmonton Oilers is their power play. They only had 10 shots on net against Dallas in that last game in the Western Conference Final, but both the goals were on their 2 power play opportunities. So if Edmonton wants a chance in this series, anytime Florida's undisciplined and they get a chance on the power play, Edmonton's got to score. And then maybe those opportunities get them to a Game 7. And then, hey, Bakari, anything can happen in a Game 7.
All right, you know what? I like it. Host of Hot Take Hockey podcast, John Faveros, my man. JB, thanks for making time for us.